Welcome back to HQ. The Broncos have officially introduced Sean Payton as their new head coach today. Payton signed a 5-year contract with the franchise, which keeps him in Denver through the 2027 season. Now, Denver reportedly traded a 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 second-rounder to the Saints. Here is Payton at the podium just minutes ago.
First off, thank you, Greg, for that introduction. Before I get started, there's some flashbacks for me in kind of starting over again, and that's what it feels like for me today. And so my first time in 2006 at this press conference, I had 3 pages of papers. My agent had put together pretty much everything I was going to read. It was probably the most unimpressive press conference in my 16 years in New Orleans. So I did the opposite. There's no paper. There's thoughts. So I'll be a little more patient, but I think a little bit more engaging. I first want to thank my family that's here. My wife, Skyleen, she's, someone's going to ask the question, why'd you get back in, Coach? And so maybe I can answer that right now. Skyleen, when you work only Sundays in the Fox studio, and then you have Monday through Saturday, there's a point at which she looked at me and said, when are you getting back to work, buddy? And so, we all kind of live with this idea of we're gonna work to this golden spot, and then we're gonna retire, and it's gonna be wonderful, and we're sold that on TV a lot. And my prior owner, the late Mr. Benson, used to tell me how overrated retirement was. And I kind of feel where he was coming from a little bit after just 1 year of whatever that was. So thank you for being patient with me. Both my children are here. Megan, who's the oldest, a graduate from Pepperdine. She's in sports journalism. My son Connor, who's a senior at TCU. He's a coaching assistant there. And Megan's fiance, Chris Titone, they're getting married this June. I tell the story about my 2 kids. Connor, who's getting into scouting, he wants to eventually become a professional scout, maybe a general manager. My daughter Megan, obviously in journalism. And I think they both decided Connor, one, wants to hire and fire the coach, and Megan wants to cover the hiring and the firing of the head coaches. And so they've seen my career from afar, a lot of moves, but a lot of great memories and championships. And Chris, we're looking forward to you joining our family this June. I want to thank the ownership group here present today. It was a longer process this year, I think, for most clubs relative to the new protocols. But my first meeting with Greg and George and Ms. Condi on a Tuesday in Los Angeles at 10 o'clock went for 4.5 hours. It was fantastic. And then later, Carrie, I really appreciate the time. I was a backup in the Fox studios a week and a half ago, and just in the event something happened in Philadelphia with the feed. And so they keep a backup plan. And I had a great visit with Carrie, her father, Rob, and that was really good. Damani, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And you're from Chicago, so that's a good start with me. We have this synergy, at least being from the same home city. Along those lines, and I'm going to jump around here, that to me, everyone has a job to do, and they all tried to jump inside what I was looking for. On one of the Fox broadcasts, I said it pretty clearly. Ownership was important to me. I had been exposed to a great ownership group in New Orleans, and I think it's appropriate for me to thank Mrs. Benson. Obviously, her late husband, Tom Benson, was the owner when I first arrived there, and then the general manager, Mickey Loomis. So what I knew for 16 years was functional. Wasn't easy, but it was functional, and it was supportive, and it was respectful, and it was teamwork at its best. And that was Mickey Loomis, who I didn't know at the time, who later became a very close friend, and then Mr. Benson and Mrs. Benson. That triangle to me was most important in this process. And obviously, the players, the city, all of those things factor in. I think the second most important thing to me was the passion is football important here? And it obviously is, right? I mean, it's a city that's had great success, 3 championships, and a number of Super Bowl appearances. That wasn't present when I went to New Orleans. Now, when you're a first-time head coach, you're out running 100 miles an hour looking for that first opportunity. And so, you don't sit back and you don't have that luxury of being more selective. But I felt.
All right, Sean Payton being introduced by the Broncos as their next head coach. We got Lige Douzable, Brady Quinn here to break it all down. He talked about his wife wanting him to go back to work and then also starting over again. He's going to have a lot to do, especially with that offense in Denver. What does starting over again mean that he's got to do, Brady? Where does he even begin there in Denver?
That's always music to my ears, though, when you've got a long-tenured and successful head coach who's won a Super Bowl, had a lot of success with the Saints. But he understands that this is not that same situation and scenario that he's presented now. Mm-hmm. And he's got to take some things that he learned over the past year being out, take things that he learned along the way during his time with the Saints, but also then take what he knows he's getting into with the Denver Broncos and apply moving forward, because this is purely a move by the new Broncos ownership to say, look, we invested into Russell Wilson. Yep. What we saw last year with what we thought was a young, innovative mind, really, Nathaniel Hackett was hired before they even took over. Mm-hmm. But that was the thought process behind the hiring of Hackett, was that pairing together was going to be able to continue the successful career of Russell Wilson, help that team get to another Super Bowl. It was anything but that. So now you bring in a veteran guy who you've seen do it before with a shorter quarterback, who's had that sort of success, to put his spin on this. But that's what this is all about. It's all about Sean Payton and his ability to bring Russell Wilson to the top of his game once again, and another Lombardi to Denver. And obviously it's motivated by his wife wanting him to get the heck out.
Yeah, to me, Brady, this is solely the ownership saying we're all in. Talk about the draft capital given up to get Russell Wilson. Now the draft capital given up to get Sean Payton. The question that everybody is wondering, can he fix Russell Wilson? You talked about, the familiarity with a shorter quarterback and Drew Brees, right? But the thing is, with Sean Payton in this offense, a lot of times it was precision passing and getting the ball out quick. Yeah. We both know Russell doesn't like to play like that. So that was the issue in Nathaniel Hackett's office. Can Sean Payton, find the middle of the pack where he could do some things that Russell really enjoys, but also get Russell to throw the ball in timing, because that's something that he generally doesn't do. Going back to his days with Shane Walden in Seattle, he didn't do it really well there his last year in 21. We saw what happened last year in this offense. So that's the thing. This ownership is saying if anybody can fix Russell Wilson, hopefully it's Sean Payton. So we're literally putting all our chips in the middle of the table saying we're going all in because we paid Russell Wilson. Now let's see if Sean Payton can fix him.
The only interesting thing about this is Sean Payton's is getting a 5-year deal. Russell Wilson, I think, has 6 years left on his deal. I thought they would have synced up those two to kind of be in alignment with one another. Maybe at that point it doesn't matter, because if things don't pan out in the next couple of years, Russell Wilson will be in place.
Yeah, Russ going 4-11 as the start of the most losses in his career.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.